All right, everybody. Back live for day 21 of the Advent of Cyber. Today, we're going to look at MQTT Have Yourself a Merry Little Webcam. So, if you've been following the last 2 days, we've been working to find out what's going on with firmware in an IoT device that we found, and it looks like what we found is a webcam. So let's go ahead and dive in to day 21. We'll go over to the machine and see what we got. All right, we've already got the machine booting up over here on the right-hand side, and let's go through what we've got over here on the left for our tasks for today. After investigating the web camera implant through hardware and firmware reverse engineering, you are tasked with identifying and exploiting any known vulnerabilities in the webcam. Mcskidy is confident that you won't be able to compromise the webcam as it seems to be up to date, but we will investigate if off-the-shelf exploits are even needed to take back control of the workshop. All right. So let's look on here. Let me scroll up. Our learning objectives are today to explain what the Internet of Things is, why it's important, and why we should be concerned about their danger. We're also going to understand the difference between an IoT-specific protocol and other network protocol services. We're going to understand what a public/subscribe model is and how it interacts with IoT devices, and then we are going to analyze and we're going to exploit the behavior and the vulnerable IoT device. All right. So I'm going to try not to go through and read all of this because there is a lot of words in this one. So we'll go through and kind of explain what's going on, but we are going to hit the main points. All right. So what is the Internet of Things, or IoT? Internet of Things are all those devices that you currently have in your home, like your lights, like thermostats, all those devices that have something on them that runs and can connect to the internet. So the Internet of Things defines a categorization of just things. Right? Just things. Devices that are interconnected and rely heavily on communication to achieve a device's objectives. Example, the IoT include thermostats, webcams, smart fridges, tons of things. You see them all day long, every day. So, let's see on here. First, IoT categorize unique devices like smart fridges that don't match other categories such as mobile phones. IoT devices tend to be lightweight, which means that the device's functionality and features are limited to only the essentials. Because of their lightweight nature, modern features may be left out or overlooked, one of the most concerning being security. While we live in a modern era of security, it still may be considered secondary, which is why it is not included in the core functionality. So when they're describing this, when we talk about our IoT devices, when we talk about our thermostats, when we talk about our lights, when we talk about those things that are actually connected to the internet in some way, shape, or some way, form, or fashion, they don't implement security. A lot of those things have default values on them that you can get into real easy by searching up on the internet. All right, let's look at IoT protocols. An IoT protocol categorizes any protocol used by an IoT device for machine-to-machine, machine-to-gateway, or machine-to-cloud communication. As previously defined, an IoT device sends and receives data communications with other devices and systems. With this in mind, the IoT protocol objectives should be efficient, reliable, and secure data communication. We can break up IoT protocols into two types, an IoT data protocol or an IoT network protocol. These types may be deceiving in their name, but both are used to communicate data. How they differ is how and where the communication occurs. At a glance, the IoT data protocol commonly relies on TCP/IP transmission, and an IoT network protocol relies on wireless technology for communication. We'll look and explain or continue to expand on those protocol, the purpose of those protocols, and types. So let's break this down real quick. An IoT data protocol let's break down the IoT data protocol into concepts that may be more familiar to us. An IoT data protocol is akin to common network services you may use or interact with daily, like HTTP, like web services, file sharing, SMB, file transfer protocol, FTP, or other types of protocols like that. HTTP can be used as the backbone for IoT protocol devices and IoT data protocol itself. So a lot of these IoT devices, you connect to them via a web server or a web-facing internet or a web-facing protocol. An IoT network or wireless protocol still maintains the same goals and data protocols, that is, data communication, but it achieves it differently. Rather than relying on traditional TCP protocols, these protocols use wireless technology such as Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, Zigbee, and Z-Wave to transfer data to communicate between entities. All right, messaging protocols. Messaging protocols communicate between the two devices through an independent server, aka middleware, or by negotiating a communication method amongst themselves. So you'll have client A and client B, and usually there's something in the middle, a bridge or something that they will both talk to and use to bounce off and to connect and talk to each other. Devices commonly use middleware because they must be lightweight and efficient. For example, an IoT device may not support a more robust protocol such as HTTP. A server is placed on the middleware of the two clients who want to communicate and translate the communication method to the means both devices can understand, giving their technology. So let's see. Recall how we mentioned that the capability of the device protocols could be a problem. Middleware fixes some of the associated issues, but may still be unable to translate all communications. And we've got our different things in here. So we've got MQTT, which is message queuing telemetry transport. So this is the protocol we're using as middleware. COAP, constrained application protocol, AMQP, and so on. Let's keep on moving through here because we want to get to this. This is actually a little fun exercise, but there is a lot to understand. So the functionality of a publish and a subscribe model of IoT devices. Messaging protocols commonly used as publish and subscribe model, noting the MQTT, which is Mosquito protocol. The model relies on a broker to negotiate a published message and a subscription query. Let's first look at the diagram of this process and then break it down a little bit further. So we've got our publisher and we have our subscriber. So the publisher, you get a message from the publisher, goes to the broker, a middle person. So that publisher is sending something over, and then the message from the publisher and the messages go to the subscriber. So based on the diagram above, a publisher sends the message to the broker. The broker continues to relay the message until the new message is published. A subscriber can attempt to connect to the broker and receive that message. The protocol should work fantastically if a single broker is needed for one device's object, but if several types of data need to be sent from one device or several publishers and subscribers need to connect to one broker, using more than one broker can be feasible, but it increases unnecessary overhead. And server usage. A secure method should ensure the integrity of messages, meaning one publisher should not override another. So you can see in here, to address these problems, a broker can store multiple messages from the different publishers using topics. That's a big thing we're going to get into a little bit later. So a publisher uses topics. A topic is a semi-arbitrary value pre-negotiated by the publisher and the subscriber and sent along with the message. The format of the topic commonly takes the form of name, the ID of the device, and then the function that's going to be used. When a message is sent with a given topic, the broker will store and overwrite it until under the topic and relay it. Let me reread that. When When a new message is sent with a given topic, the broker will store or overwrite it under the topic and relay it to the subscribers who have subscribed to it. So below we've got the diagram. So we've got publisher A, publisher B, and here is our middle section. So we've got topic, the message is ABCD, and we have topic A. This one's 1, 2, 3, and we have topic B. So they're going to sit within that broker until they go out to the subscribers. So below is the diagram of several subscribers receiving those messages. We got topic A sitting within the broker, going out to A and going out to B. This gets more into what we've looked at, publishing and subscribing. Are IoT protocols inherently vulnerable? We've identified the relationship between IoT protocols and network services and how messaging protocols function. This still leaves the question of how secure are IoT protocols. So let's apply this to something that we're more familiar with, HTTP. HTTP vulnerabilities often refer to vulnerabilities in the software application built off the protocol. This does not mean protocols are absent of vulnerabilities, but they generally possess strict requirements and require revisions before release of public adoption. So similarly, IoT protocols are not inherently vulnerable. So what makes an IoT insecure? Before giving a more formal explanation, let's consider that the device settings of MQTT, which is the Mosquito protocol, when it was first deployed, a MQTT broker assigns all devices connected to it a read and a write access to all the topics. That is, any device can publish and subscribe to a topic. We may be okay with this idea at first. In a thermostat, for example, we are only communicating temperatures, so the integrity of the device should not be an issue. But if we dive into it a little bit deeper, this is what we're going to find. The data is shown, or the data should allow the CIA, or CIA triad, the confidentiality, integrity, and availability triad, best practices as closely as possible. That is, the data should not be read or manipulated by an unauthorized source and should be accessible to the users, the authorized users. Following best practices, authentication and authorization should be implemented to prevent potentially bad actors from compromising any principle of the CIA triad. So let's come down here and let's hit a recap so we don't have to keep going through all this. The recap is the MQTT instance may be insecure due to improper data regulation best practices. An instance may be vulnerable if the device's behavior allows an attacker to perform malicious acts or actions from expected interaction. So we've got abusing. Let's read this real quick. Before moving the hands on, let's address how we can identify information. An attacker can discover device behavior from communication sniffing, source code analysis, or documentation. So I believe, we did a couple of days back, we did Wireshark. So you could sniff the network, you could find stuff using protocols and find out what's going on there. You can source code analysis like we've done like we did in the last two, where we looked at the firmware and the source code. And then, of course, if you just pull up the documentation of the actual devices, you can see a lot about what's going on with those devices themselves. Once a behavior is identified, we can use clients to interact with the devices and send malicious messages and payloads. To cement this concept, let's go back to the thermostat example and see how an attacker may attempt to control a device. Oh. Let's see, my machine expired? All right, so let's go ahead and scroll down. Let's go ahead and start knocking this out. So what we're looking for is we're going to open up a terminal. And where is our practical application? Here we go, practical application. Okay, so we've gone through up here. I guess we can go through this real quick. Interacting with MQTT. So with interacting with this protocol, we have two different things we can do. We can do Mosquito sub. We can do Mosquito publish. So we can be the subscriber or the publisher. And what we're going to do is we're going to use those protocols to actually send stuff to our device and then subscribe to that device to get the information from it. So down here we see where it goes through and explains how to use Mosquito sub-T with device. And before we did this, we talked about device and then the ID and then the command. These are different flags. So we got H as a host for Mosquito sub. We've got Mosquito _pub. Same concept, except that you're on the publishing side. And then for both clients, there are several notable option flags that you can go through. So D will debug. We've got I for ID of the server. We've got our ports. It looks like the default port is 1883. We've got username, password, and then URL. A device using MQTT will craft messages as a means of communication authentically. As an attacker, we will attempt to portray our publishing source as a legitimate source in hopes that the other side will interact with the message as it would an authenticated message to provide us with unattended behavior. All right, so let's go ahead and look at this. So first, let's start off by we've started our machine. The device interacts with MQTT broker to publish and subscribe predefined topics. The device can be found at. All right, so let's make sure the device is up. So we can ping 10.10.185.205. Yep. So our device is up. So what we want to do is we need to find out about that device, right? So what we've done before is we've looked at Nmap, so we can scan that device. So let's do, we've got up here where it gives us a default port. So let's scan that port, Nmap, port 1883, right? 1883, 10.10.185.205. We're right, 205, yeah. All right, so it looks like it is up, and it looks like 1833 is open. Now, we scanned that port, and just because we scanned it and it's open doesn't necessarily mean that 1883 is sending out MQTT. It says that that's the service, but we all know we can change stuff on ports. We can force a port to be anything we want to. This Nmap itself is just saying, hey, this is what's usually on here. So what we can do is we can do a versioning and make sure that we can do an Nmap scan of versioning and make sure that we've got this set up right. So let's do Nmap -P 1883. And then what we want to run is a -S B for versioning. And then let's do 185.205. See if it will give us the version of. It does a deeper scan into this, and we should be able to get a version. There we go. So we do see that it is 1883, and it actually is the Mosquito service running on that version. Perfect. So device, okay. Firmware engineering. From firmware reverse engineering, we now know the device uses two topics. We have a device that int. So it publishes the device ID, the current device. So let's go ahead. What's up, Reg? All right, so let's go ahead and we need to scan one more time in here. Let's look at Nmap. Let's scan this port of 1883. let's do svnsc. Let's run scripts on this. 10.10.185.205. And we're running scripts because what we need to do to actually complete this task, which I've looked at earlier, is we actually are going to need to find what the device serial number is. And running the nmap scripts on here, you'll see now we've got more information, and we now have a serial number. So that's a serial number of our device. Let's go ahead and right click, copy. Let me get Sublime. We're going to need to make notes in here. So this is going to be the serial of our device. Perfect. We'll need that. And in here, so firmware reverse engineering, we know the device uses two topics. We've got the device initial, publishes device ID. So now we have the ID that goes in here. So we need device, right? We're going to have device, device slash, and then we're going to have our ID, and then we're going to have CMD. Okay. That subscribes the device ID specific topic to receive commands. The device is known as an RSTP device, which is a real-time streaming protocol that we use. Netflix, everybody uses this to stream video. So if an attacker can control where and how the RTSP stream is forwarded, they can redirect that to server to control. So we've got the device, we have the ID, CMD topic can specify the behavior through a numeric CMD parameter and the ability to parse the key value pair to be used to interact with it. So we do not yet possess how the command topic behaves, right? So we can close this. This is the device source code that has been pulled out for us. So if we click on here, we've got the device source code. It is up to you to craft a malicious message and to target the command topic. So we're going to have to figure out how in the world or what message are we going to give this thing to send. So if we look at this, we look at this script, we look at this payload that's in here, as we go down, we can see that we're printing the topic, we're printing a payload, parsing the payload, come through. We have CMD equals 0. We have a URL equals 1. We have a target command equals 10. We have a CMD name, CMD value, a URL name, URL value. And it looks like in here, the expected format of the message. So the expected format of the camera message is going to be in this format, which looks like it's JSON. So we're going to need to craft a message that looks like this. CMD, and then we're going to have a value. And then we're going to have a comma, and then we're going to have URL. URL. And then we're going to have a value of the URL. Oh man, I can't type. And we're going to close. So this is going to be what we're going to be looking at. Note, the format for the quotes must match exactly. The double quotes must wrap the entire message. Got that. The CMD value to overwrite and redirect is 10. Okay, so once we start looking at this, here's our value. So our value, here we got our CMD name, our CMD value. So if we looking in here, we have command payload. So CMD name lower is CMD. So this should actually be CMD, all lowercase. And then we have a value, CMD value equals target. So we already know this target is actually up here. The target equals 10. So now we have a target of 10. And then our URL. And then we need a value for the URL. So the URL itself is going to be what we write out. So the URL value should be the ETH0 or so the interface of, it's going to be the interface of the attacking machine hosting the server. So this is actually going to end up being us. So this will be RS or RTSP is going to be the value. It's going to be here. And then what is our, we scroll up, we're going to have our value of 10.10.80.20. And then we should have 8554 once we load our server, and then we'll have a path, and we'll take the path to camera. Okay. Oh, here we go. So, verify that that's the endpoint. We've done that. Use sub, describe to the device. We've done that. So now we need to start. We're going to need to start another terminal. So now we need to start a device. We need to go ahead and run this command to start a Docker instance that's going to run an RTSP simple server. So this is what we're going to send all of our camera footage to. Network equals host because we want it to be this exact host that we're already on. And then this is the Docker container alert 9/RTSP simple server. All right, we do that. All right, so now we have a listener. We have a server running that we can now pipe all that data to, all that footage to. And here's our 8554, which we wrote in here, 8554. So we got that good. Note the port. We got that. Use Mosquito pub to publish the payload in the device ID command. So in the way we wrote this, remember, here's our device ID. Something. Check and make sure we don't got people in chat. Nobody's in chat. Okay, so we now have our, over here we've got our command and then 10. We've done that. We've got our URL, our RTSP. So that's what we're going to run here. So now we need to use the Mosquito to publish a payload to it. So let's think about how we're going to write this. This should be Mosquito, and then we're going to publish. And then we're going to, should be H, I believe. So we got Mosquito publish, and then our IP address that we're running, we're sending it to the camera. So what was our camera address? We had that up here. Uh, 185.205. Okay. So we got 10.10.185.205. All right, and then We should have... You know what? Let's do this. Let's get all of our... It looks like we've got it in here. Whoop. So M is going to be a message. Our tag for H is going to be our host. M is going to be the message. And T is going to be our topic. Okay. So our message, that's our host. So our host is going to be, what did we say? We said 10.10.185.205. Our message is going to be the message we're sending over, but we need to put a topic in first. Our topic, remember earlier in the top, this was our topic. Then we have our device, we have the ID, and then we have the command, and then our message itself is going to be what we wrote out here. And then, all right, so we should have something along the lines of something like this. MOSQUITTO, or pub, and then -H, which would be 10.10.185.205, and then we should be able to do -T, -T, and then we should be able to do -M. And that should be our whole line. Let's see what happens. We paste that in here. All right, use mosquito, but did we spell it wrong? MOSQU. Hold on a second. I think it said something about wrapping everything around quotes. There we go. All right, now. There it is. Now we're listening. Ha! Yes! So now we've got stuff coming in through here. So now how are we going to view this? What's up, Hollywood Ref? All right, how are we going? Now, what we just did is by configuring this payload and sending it over and publishing it to that webcam, that webcam is now changed where it's publishing all of its stuff, and we are now the broker. So it's sending everything to us. So now you can see the RTSP sessions are rolling in to our our box. So now, how do we view that? We can run VLC, and we should be able to run RSTP, or I always say RTSP, and then 127.00.1, and then our port 8554. And then what we used here is we used camera, so 8020 is going to be our box, and 127, oh, I got too many zeros. 127.0.0.1 is actually your local host, so you should be able to fire that up. Hey, what? There we go. My head's down, but all right. So, and then we actually added a spot on the end that says camera. That's what we want to look at. So now we should be able to run. We should see VLC pop up, and we should be able to see the camera. And there we go. So now you see that you have you're running this, and we're seeing the elf throw the stuff up in the air. Woohoo! That's our video, and you're seeing stuff fly in left and right. because now we're monitoring our video. So we have essentially in less than 35 minutes found a camera, gotten a payload, set it up, and now we're in and we're watching what's going on in Santa's workshop. So let's scroll down here and let's see what we can answer. So what port is it on? That runs on 1883. Is the device/INT topic enumerated by nmap during a script? Yes, you can see that by running the scripts. What Mosquito version is the device using? We did that up here. Let's scroll back up, see if we can see that. That was in one of these. Here it is, 1.6.9 or 1.6.9, 1.6.9. And what is the flag? So what is he throwing up in the air? Its flag is THM. And that is your camera is fine. Boom shakalaka. And they say if you want to learn more, check out the command injection room or the vulnerability research module. And that's it. So that's it for day 21 of the Advent of Cyber. So today we got to hack a camera. We've been working with that camera for the last 3 days, or we've been working with that IoT device for the last 3 days, tearing down the firmware, figuring out what's going on. We've got all that information. Once we got all that information, now we're able to check and verify. What we did is we verified that that camera is vulnerable, and that means somebody did get into that camera, and that's probably how they were viewing what's going on in the workshop. So, that being said, day 21, all done. We've got tomorrow, day 22. We've got a couple more days left. We'll end it out on Friday, but we'll end it out on Saturday, the 24th. So we got day 22 tomorrow, and I will see you guys then. Everybody have a good night.